Well, good morning. Thank you for joining me on this Monday as we come back after enjoying a beautiful weekend to spend a little time in the truth today. Today we will be in Genesis chapter 47. Sorry, we finished 46 last week. And so we're jumping into chapter 47 today to see how the story of Joseph continues to unfold. Jacob and all his family have arrived in Egypt. Joseph and Jacob have been reunited in a beautiful opportunity to realize the facts. The fact is, Joseph has been alive. Jacob's mourning was not warranted because his sons had lied to him. And Jacob is excited, overwhelmed. I can't imagine how his heart felt that moment that he saw Joseph and they embraced each other. And the scripture says that they wept on each other for a long time. And so a beautiful reunion has taken place. Following that beautiful reunion, Joseph reveals the necessity of his brothers being introduced to Pharaoh, his family representatives, we're going to call them, being introduced to Pharaoh, and what they should say when he asks them the question, "What do you do? What's your occupation?" And so we come today to chapter 47, and we pick it up in verse 1, and the story continues to roll on here. So Joseph went in and told Pharaoh, "My father, my brothers, and their flocks and herds, and all that they possess have come from the land of Canaan. They are now in the land of Goshen." So sure that Pharaoh probably had heard something about the arrival of Joseph's family through the grapevine, perhaps, but now he's finding it out very clearly and specifically from Joseph himself. My father and my brothers are here. They have arrived from Canaan. Pharaoh knew that they were going to be coming from Canaan because he's the one who sent the wagons to bring his family to Egypt, and so he had knowledge of their coming. Now their arrival is officially stated to Pharaoh. They are here. Along with them, they've brought their flocks and their herds, so all of their livestock, cows, donkeys, sheep, goats, whatever it is that they had in the form of flocks and herds is with them, and all that they possess, they've come from the land of Canaan. So I was thinking about that this morning, and it's very clear, obvious here that they're not just coming for a visit. They're not just coming for a week, or two, or a month, or a couple of months. They're coming to stay. There's somewhere between 4 and 5 years of famine left. There's no grazing for them in Canaan. They need grazing land in Egypt. And so they've brought everything with them, and they are going to be here a while. They're coming to stay. They're going to take up residence here, which, whether Pharaoh assumed that or knew that or not, I don't know. And then Joseph reveals to Pharaoh that they're actually at this moment settling in Goshen. That's where they are right now, in the land of Goshen, which is northern Egypt. Very good land for their livestock. God gave them the best. Going on in verse 2, and from among his brothers he took 5 men and presented them to Pharaoh. So it's interesting that Joseph doesn't take all of his brothers. He doesn't take 11 men with him to go to see the Pharaoh. He chooses 5 out of the 11 to be representatives of the entire family. God chose not to reveal to us who those 5 men were. I don't know that it would be significant to us anyway if we knew who they were. But God chose not to reveal them to us. just at a small representation of the 70 people that have come from the land of Canaan, are there standing before Pharaoh, representing the entire family. And so Joseph chooses 5 to bring them along, and he presents them to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh looks at them. Verse 3, Pharaoh said to his brothers, "What is your occupation?" So Joseph knew what the question was going to be. He knew that Pharaoh was going to be interested in their occupation. People are moving into your country. You're curious about what they do. Pharaoh's curious about what Joseph's family does. And he's already given them instruction. When he asks you this question, tell him you're shepherds. Don't beat around the bush about anything. Just be open with him and tell him the truth. You're shepherds. And so, the second part of verse 3, what's your occupation? And they said to Pharaoh, your servants are shepherds, as our fathers were. So, what's your occupation? We're shepherds, and we're not just first generation shepherds, but there have been generations of our family that have been shepherds. So this has been going on for a long time. We're not new to this, is the indication that I took from it, that for generations they've been caring for livestock. Their experience in doing so, because of the generations of caring for livestock, is significant. And I think that's important for Pharaoh to know that. And so they reveal that to him, that we've been shepherds for generations. Verse 4, and they said to Pharaoh, we have come to sojourn in the land. We've come to spend some time here. The idea of sojourning there is not that we're going to be here permanently, but we're going to be here for a time. And ultimately, with 4 to 5 years of famine left, it's probably minimum of 4 to 5 years is the picture in my mind. Yet we know that they're going to end up being there for a long time, 400 years. And so we're here to sojourn for a time. How long that time was undetermined at that point. Because there's no pasture for your servants' flocks, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. And now please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And so the explanation is, we come from Canaan. The famine is so bad there that there's no place for our flocks and herds to graze. There's no food. And so we've come and we're asking permission to abide in the land of Canaan, that we might set up our house in the land of Canaan. Our family will live there. Or in Goshen, sorry. Then Pharaoh turns to Joseph and says to him in verse 5, your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is before you. Settle your father and your brothers in the best of the land. Again, it's just that every time I come to these kinds of statements, I look at how God prepared the way for this to be in place. God worked purposefully through the lives of Joseph's brothers and through the life of Joseph especially, to bring Joseph to this position where his respect before Pharaoh is top level. Pharaoh trusts Joseph completely. Everything Joseph's done through the 7 years preparing for the famine, and now the first few years of the famine, everything Joseph has done has been top notch. And Pharaoh is grateful that Joseph is there. And his gratefulness for Joseph is evident in his compassion for Joseph's family. He's willing to give them, he said, you take the best of the land. You go find the best possible place in Egypt, and it can be yours. So I just think I look at those kinds of phrases and I think, what a great thing God did. What a fantastic thing that God did to put his people in that position, and how he got there, how God got Joseph there. Just an amazing process. And Joseph as well, willing to endure it all. And we don't find any place in Scripture where Joseph ever complains, Joseph ever feels sorry for himself. Joseph just went through each step, trusting God, knowing that God was going to be faithful. Joseph walked through every door that God had put there. Whether those doors represented times of joy or times of struggle, Joseph was walking through those doors to get to this place. And here they are. And it's just an amazing thing every time I consider what God can do and does do to accomplish his purpose. He does things that you and I can't comprehend, but he does it for his purpose. And here he works it out. And so the whole land's before you. Choose whatever you want. Pretty amazing open door. It's like writing Joseph a blank check. You can do whatever you want in this country. It belongs to them and you. You just take it. Beautiful. Let them settle in the land of Goshen. So if that's the land they want, put them there. That's perfect. No complaints from me. Set them up there. And then he goes on to say at the end of verse 7, and if you know any able men among them, put them in charge of my livestock. So here's the other open door that is presented. You know your brothers. You know which ones are the best equipped as shepherds and herdsmen. And I don't know if in Pharaoh's mind he's looking at the generations, because we found out previously at the end of chapter 46 that Egyptians didn't look highly at all on herdsmen and shepherds. Not a profession that many Egyptians wanted to be involved in because they saw it as an abomination. And so Pharaoh opens the door now for Joseph and his family and says, look, if you want to take control of this and put some of your family members over my livestock, it's yours. Just put them there. Let them take care of mine as well. And so it's just one open door after another. God just providing and providing and providing and providing for Joseph and his family. And so as I think of God's provision, we're going to stop there for today. And just a little application. As I think of God's provision, Joseph's walk was definitely a walk of faith. As he said to his brothers, basically, you meant this for evil, but God meant it for good. What you did, you were intending to harm me with because you were jealous of me. But God's intention was to get us to this point. And it's a beautiful thing. And so remembering that James in chapter 1 tells us to count it all joy when we fall into different kinds of trials, because the trying of our faith works patience. And patience will have a perfect work. And as I think about that verse and I think about Joseph, and here's Joseph for all these years going through being sold as a slave, then put in jail because of Potiphar's wife and her false accusations, and then rising to the place where the jailer trusted him, and now he interprets the dreams of the baker and the cupbearer. And years later, the cupbearer finally remembers, hey, there's this guy named Joseph. All of that. He went through many trials, different kinds of trials, struggles, waiting for the will of God to be revealed. And then once he was at that place where God wanted him to be, Pharaoh has a dream. Boom, done. God's plan worked out. So don't get lost in the process of the plan. Let your heart be ready to wait for God to reveal what the next portion of that plan is going to be. It is a challenge to go through the trials, but the trials have a purpose. They are going to work out something in our life. And James says that's patience. I'm sure that Joseph needed a lot of patience in the days leading up to his introduction to Pharaoh. And then that patience, I'm sure, worked out in his life as the plan to save for the 7 years and redistribute for the 7 years began to unfold. So though things are difficult at times, the fact is that God is working. He hasn't stopped, and he isn't going to until he's done with the earth and done with us on this earth. And so be faithful, trust him, walk with him. He's never going to fail you. There are times when he puts us in the valley of the shadow of death, but there we don't have to fear. And then there are times, like the time that Joseph is in now, where it's green pastures and still waters. God's working and will work, and we need to trust that. Sorry. Well, thanks for taking time to the truth with me today. I look forward to seeing you Wednesday. I won't see you tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to be out of the office in the morning for the morning, so I won't be in tomorrow. But Wednesday, we'll come back and pick it up here in chapter 47 and go on from there. So thanks for joining me today. I'll look forward to seeing you Wednesday. I hope that you have a great day in the Lord.